the keto versus the regular carb people. Now, I have been wanting to talk about what this diet is like, because I think that's like the world divided. Like, we're divided right now because it's like you're eating high carbs. Oh, well, I'm doing low carbs. Which is better? It's like I can't really say one is better than the other. Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you, like, where do you lean more towards?
Getting in shape can be scary. So many questions, so many things to learn. But that's where we come in. The Fitness Fundamental Podcast. The only podcast here to take the fear out of fitness. With your host, Dom Jackson. What's up, fitness freaks? It's Dom Jackson. Tuned into the Fitness Fundamentals Podcast. The only podcast here to take the fear out of fitness. I'm here with today's guest, Keiran Bibbs. Strength coach, Spartan racer, bodybuilder, workout extraordinaire. What else you want on there, man?
Well, football is a little bit better. Tis the season.
Yeah, me and Bibbs go back for a long time ago, back in our college years.
College, Metro. What else was there? Cherry Hill, Eastern days.
Yeah. Rival high schools. And, doing our thing as personal trainers now. But, yeah, man, how you feeling?
Feeling great. Plugging away, getting ready for the abomination of winter. We'll see what's going to happen here. So this podcast is going to be interesting just because it's the season of eating. So
it is the season of eating, guys. There's a lot of we have a lot of gems for you guys today on eating and things of such, but I'll let Keiran handle some of that. So what do you have in store for us, Bibbs?
Well, I mean, a lot about eating. I feel like that's a huge topic that we try to touch on, but there is so many things out there diet wise that we look at on a regular basis. Some people swear about certain diets and others do not. Some things work for some people, some don't. But there's certain misconceptions about certain diets and really finding your own personal, habits and diets or whatever you want to call it that fit your needs and your requirements that are suitable for you, that you can adhere to. Adherence. That was one of the bigger things I wanted to talk about, was just straight up adherence, because at the end of the day, if you can't see yourself eating that way for the rest of your life, or somewhat close to that, then you probably shouldn't start with that diet. You know what I'm saying?
Damn right.
30-day challenges don't work. They just don't work. I mean, unless it's like to get you started, meaning like, drinking water and stuff like that. But as far as diets go, 30-day challenge, then you go back to doing whatever you're doing before, you gain it all back. So, we're going to talk about some of that stuff today.
Yes, he's 100% right, guys. A fence that goes up fast falls down fast. So it's all about finding the right habits. And I don't care what the diet says. I don't care if it's what doctor or whatever magazine tells you to do. You got to find a diet that you can stick to, that you can adhere to. I 100% agree on that. That's like a big factor. So what steps would you have someone take in trying to figure out that? Well, overall, what are the, if you can go over the basis of what you would have you or your client eat, what are the basis of like the simplest way for them to find themselves to eat diet-wise? How would you go about that process?
First, I always look at what their lifestyle is like, what their tendencies are. So I usually have them write down a weekend of eating, because we all know how weekends go. And, a couple weekdays, maybe 2-3 weekdays. And I basically assess what those days are like, where your protein, carbs, and fats are for those days, and kind of see what you lean more towards, and try to figure it out from there. Because, obviously different cultures eat different things. They're accustomed to different things. Maybe if you get older, you acquire different tastes for certain things. So you just really try to hone in on what the person enjoys eating and what they enjoy doing the most. So I start with that first, and then after I take a look at the macros and things like that, I really try to get it geared towards, depending on what their goal is, of course, like obviously fat loss maintenance, and maybe it's performance, increasing muscle mass and things like that. So then we look at that. That's the next thing up, and then from there we kind of talk about where you want to go from there, meaning what your goals are. It's goal setting. So short term, intermediate, then your long term goals, and then how we're going to get there. So you go from there. I don't really set up exact numbers. I kind of usually ballpark it first, because you don't always hit the nail on the head, but relatively speaking, obviously using the scale and different things, where they're going to be. And then you kind of assess over the first couple weeks, if they go down, if they go up. And that all depends on your training level too. So if you're untrained, obviously you're going to see results faster. You might lose some water weight. How heavy are you? I don't like to pay attention to things like BMI, but you're like body fat, things like that. Depending on those levels, it may vary on your results. So that's pretty much how I get them started.
Okay. Now I want to go back to the macronutrients you were talking about, the macros, because a lot of people are always curious about them, what they are, how to track them. And since we're the fundamentals over here, could you go over just the square one of what macros are?
Right. So you got your macronutrients. So that's your proteins, carbohydrates, and your fats. Now, to me personally, I think protein is one of the bigger components of your diet. The reason being is for obviously that lean muscle mass. Although you ladies out there think that if you eat too much protein, you're gonna have muscles growing off of your neck.
Turn into the Hulk, yeah.
Yeah, and if you pick up a weight, that you're gonna turn into the Hulk too, which is not the case, because I've been lifting for years and I don't even look like the Hulk. So yeah, there's that. But the reason is, one, it has a higher thermic effect for food. So you consuming it obviously requires more energy to utilize and things like that. So higher thermic effect of food. Muscle maintenance prevents breakdown, things like that. You can build your muscle up. So I usually use that as like my staple. I go straight to that first, based off of what my body fat percentage is. You go to lean muscle mass and things like that. So I target that first, and then I kind of, divvy it up based off of what I typically like to eat, carbs and fats wise. So your fats are obviously your oils, your nuts, your things like that, naturally occurring foods. Obviously, some fats are better than others. You get into that hydrogenated. A lot of people think they can just eat Skippy or something like that. Random. I mean, granted, there is Skippy, natural Skippy that doesn't have the hydrogenated oils and things like that. So I'd go with the avocados, things like that. So I factor that in. I typically like a lower fat diet. I like carbs. Most people like carbs, but they just don't know how to use them. I'll get into that next. But so I will, typically lean on the lower side. But there's a certain amount that you need to have for fats, for your hormones, things like that. Very important. And I think a lot of people demonize fat because they're like, oh, you eat fat, you get fat, right? And then I'm about to get into that next. You eat fat, you get fat. That's the biggest problem that we have, is that, and the carbohydrates. But that's
are carbs bad? I eat too many carbs.
You eat too much damn fruit and vegetables could be bad too. But yeah, so after I do that, So I basically tailor it towards what my needs are truly. So meaning, okay, for my basic survival, what's the minimum percentage that I need of fat? And then maybe I can go up from there, or, sometimes getting a lot of carbs in is pretty hard. So I kind of like tween in between. Okay, I'm on like the decent side of not being too low in fat, a little bit above that. So they say you shouldn't have less than about 20% fat in your diet. If you're going to go on a low fat, side, higher protein, higher carbohydrate, just for your harm reduction and things like that. Because you don't want that to get all wonky and stuff like that. Definitely. So I always make sure my hormones are in check. So I play on the safer side. Maybe I go 25, 30% fats or something like that. Then the rest is carbohydrates. Now, the way I do my carbohydrates, I like to eat complex carbs. Now, research shows if calories are equated for, after you do your protein, things like that, that it really doesn't matter how you divvy up the fats and the carbohydrates if you're at a caloric deficit. So, I personally think, for me, I like the higher carbohydrate side, just because it's easier for me to do, and they're just cheaper, easier for me to eat. I enjoy it, so I like it. But a lot of people abuse this because they think, okay, great, I can eat all the Pop-Tarts I want. I have 400 grams of carbs for the day allotted for me. I'm going to eat 10 Pop-Tarts. But okay, great, fine, you can probably do that, no problem. But here's the issue. Satiety, right? You're hungry. Didn't really fill you. It's quick sugar. Your friggin' blood sugar's all over the place. Now, that's why I like the complex carbs, because that stays in your system for a while. Don't get as hungry. You're full. And you don't really have to worry about being hungry like immediately. I know if I eat, for instance, I could eat a whole pack of Sour Patch Kids, right? I'll get that quick energy, right?
Oh, yeah, you're
Wired. And the next thing you know, boom, gone. I mean, it's great around your workouts, pre and post workout. That's another thing. That's like sports. You get more into sports nutrition, things like that. But, that spike real quick, and then, you dip down, then you're looking for more food because you're hungry, right? So that's where people get out of whack. So I usually recommend just complex carbs, to keep you steady throughout the day and things like that. So
what are some of the complex carbs you recommend?
Sweet potatoes, I think, are my potatoes in general, actually. Don't knock the white potatoes. You should, read about that. You are like not hungry after eating potatoes. Like white potato will sit in your stomach, and it feels like those potatoes will never leave. That's, me personally at least. White potatoes, sweet potatoes are my number one. Love sweet potatoes. So many different ways you can eat them. Sweet potato fries, you can make those homemade. Love those. I wish I had like a recipe or something like that. I dropped that, but
next podcast, don't worry.
Of course. Your quinoa, couscous, brown rice, of course. Those are like my main ones. Those are, on the cheaper side. You really don't go wrong with those. And there's so many combinations you can do with it. You can go like, you can go Asian inspired, Mexican. You can do so much stuff with that. Even pastas. I like pastas too, but I'm quick to overdo some spaghetti, man. I just get like a heap in handful and just pasta sauce. Yeah, that's usually where I go wrong. But try to steer away from that, or really eyeball it and make sure I'm actually getting the serving size, because you can easily overdo pasta. And I'm sure a lot of people can attest to that too. Pasta is like my weakness. So yeah, that's for me. I know a lot of people like the breads and things like that. I don't really go to bread that often. If it is, it's gonna be like a little whole seeded, like run through your body.
Yeah.
Bread. So it's not as fun, but I mean, it's, that's the bread that you really should have is wholesome as possible. So you get your fiber and things like that, and whole grains.
Ezekiel bread.
Ezekiel bread. That's a great one. Who else does it? The good seed. I forget what the brand is. Is that something like that? But that's a good brand.
I'll put that in the show notes once we figure it out.
It's actually really good. I go with that. But that usually goes quick. So if I know I'm going to be eating bread, I'm going to make sure I get the good kind, and I kind of just store it or whatever, put it in the freezer. You think it goes bad fast. It's not like the other breads, they shelf life on that's higher, obviously because of preservatives and things like that.
Of course. So you just said that typically if you're trying to lose weight, you guys eat protein that's about your lean body mass percentage.
Yep.
And then the fats and carbs, you can kind of play with them towards how you like to eat.
Right.
For losing weight. Now, what if you're trying to gain muscle? How would you flip that? Your dietary macro setup.
If you're trying to gain muscle, that usually means you're trying to gain weight. Usually, but there is a way. Obviously, you can go down in body fat, increase muscle mass, things like that. That's usually around maintenance calories. So your body doesn't really feel like it's going down too far. Then things like that. But I usually for that. Depends on how you want to do it. That really goes back to what your training is. Again, your protein is going to be relatively high if you're doing the based off of your lean body mass and things like that. So really after that, it's just plugging away at, okay, if you want to increase muscle mass, it's how are you training? Is it, hypertrophy? Is it, you have to look at your workouts for the most part, time under tension, building muscle tissue, things like that. But, calorically, usually you can either get away with maintenance, you can go a little bit lower, but obviously if you're on a really aggressive weight cut or something like that, it's not going to be that easy to build muscle tissue on a low calorie diet, because your body's basically like, when I need to build this for you, you're trying to break me down for the most part. So it's harder to do it that way. But usually when caloric surplus, even if it's at the slightest, you can build some muscle mass, and then inversely go down body fat, go up muscle mass, that kind of thing. It all depends on the person, to be honest with you, and then you have to factor in your daily movement, things like that. The TDEE, for those that I don't know, so that's total daily. What's that? Oh, that's your total daily calorie expenditure for the day. Well, I don't really need to get into that. It's really deep, but yeah. All right. So that's your gaining muscle mass, people.
Okay. So definitely surplus, protein good, and then mostly focus on your training volume from there.
Yeah, training volume, very important. That's one of the things too. A lot of people will fail to see is that what their goal is doesn't really match up to what they're doing. Like you have somebody that wants to build strength, but they're on like a high rep, program kind of thing, or they're trying to get stronger and things, and they're on a really low calorie diet, and you're like, well, you can't move weight if you don't have any energy. So
yes,
obviously you got to up that. So yeah, that's another thing. They work together. So make sure that you're really on the straight and narrow to what you want to do. Now obviously if you're just lifting for aesthetics and things like that, it's a little bit easier because you know what you want to do. If you're trying to lose weight, really movement is just the main goal in general, burn more calories, things like that. It just popped in my head. The keto versus the regular carb people. Now, I have been wanting to talk about what what this diet is like, because I think that's like the world divided. Like we're divided right now because it's like you're eating high carbs. Oh well, I'm doing low carbs. Which is better? It's like I can't really say one is better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you, like, where do you lean more towards?
I lean on the side of I'm not opposed to keto. I don't do it personally because I like carbs, so I'm not gonna do anything that gets rid of carbs. Yeah, like I'm not. You think I'm sacrificing these nans? You're crazy. But I mean, the whole thing is that it's big. I'm big on adherence as well. So as long as like if you typically don't eat that many carbs in general, and you think keto is the way to go, it might help you out because it'll get rid of extra calories that you're eating throughout the day you don't really need. But if you're like eating a bagel for breakfast and like having cereal and like drinking beer, like if carbs are a big part of your life and you're trying to lose weight, keto is not the way to go. So I'm on team carbs, but I'm not against the keto guys out there. It really comes down to you and what you're trying to do. What's your opinion on it?
I would say about the same. Personally, I've tried so many different dieting methods. There's so many out there. And a lot of times, I gave myself up to science a couple times. So, back when it wasn't as popular, I would say when I was in college. So that was around 2012, 2016, right? Those are my years in college. So, played college football, things like that. I'll get into, what I did then. But my experience with the ketogenic diet was, I would say I did it for, had to been 40 to 60 days. I did the ketogenic diet for. So, but the problem is, it's like you really can't tell how it's going to treat you if you've only been doing it for 2 weeks or something like that. It's really not even full, keto. So what I did was about 2 months before I kind of was like, this isn't going to work for me. The low carb, high fat, high protein diets to me didn't really work for me because I enjoyed eating carbs more than I did eating, fatty foods. Now there's nothing wrong with eating those foods. Now, the biggest thing with ketogenic diets is a lot of people don't understand is that obviously if you're eating more fat, you're burning more fat because that's what your preferred source of energy now is becoming. It doesn't mean you're 10 times better losing body fat in total because you're burning more fat. That's just what you're consuming. So obviously, reverse it, right? You're eating a lot of carbohydrates. You're better at burning carbohydrates, right? So that's just what you're giving your body. So that's what it's working off of. So me personally, I didn't really like it because I couldn't really steer away from, like, I love sushi rolls and, sushi rolls. I love fruit. I love, all the starchy, complex carbs, things like that, like pastas. I could not steer away from that. Some people don't eat that way. That's why I go back to assessing what people eat, because then I realize, okay, you barely eat any carbs, so you could do well on a ketogenic diet, like if you want to do that. But I did notice though, like here is I wasn't as hungry. I would say, I don't know about the whole mental clarity thing. I felt like I was a little sluggish for a while, just because I guess my body wasn't used to just eating just fats and proteins for the most part. So I felt a little bit sluggish. My energy levels kind of dipped, meaning not just because I was on the ketogenic diet, but I was kind of dipping just because the workouts, primarily in the front end, like when I first started it, were kind of rough just because I wasn't used to the ketogenic diet yet. Although towards the end they got a little bit better because I guess my body started to respond to it a little bit better. But to me, I liked, eating, carbs and stuff like that before I went to the gym. So, I couldn't really find my niche for that. So I kind of was like, I'm good on that. But, for the people that really do like the ketogenic diet, I do hear that they get used to that. They can do a lot of things like intermittent fasting kind of goes with it. Usually I see a lot of people pair that together, the intermittent fasting. Have you ever done it before?
Not yet. I want to try that too, though, just to see how it is. I get up early anyway, so like having that window of eating wouldn't really faze me because I usually eat pretty early anyway. So if I didn't eat again until like midday, I just want to try it. I want to start doing some more experimentation.
Yeah, that's the same thing I did too. You got a lot of trial and error. You don't know until you try it. Same thing with that. I've done intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting for me was pretty interesting because the problem was I felt like I was running away and had to avoid certain activities, like lifting and things like that without food. I don't think I can lift without food. I mean, I've done it a couple times, but lifting without food to me is kind of hard. Like it's not an easy thing to do. So, intermittent fasting does work, but again, it's not really magical. And a lot of these things aren't magical, meaning the ketogenic diet, whether or not you're eating carbs, if it fits your macros, all that stuff, they're not magical. Because at the end of the day, I mean, if you're still trying to lose weight, that's your end goal, you still have to be under your calorie amount. And then obviously, depending on how you do it, I mean, you could mess up your metabolism, things like that. A lot of things goes with it. Like I know some people can't eat within that eating window. They can't fit all the food in there because it's just so much for them at once. I know it's a couple hours over time, but obviously if that works for your schedule, you're not used to eating in the morning, you don't like breakfast and things like that. It will work better for those people. But again, not in a caloric deficit ain't going to work. I've seen people gain weight on intermittent fasting and a ketogenic diet. Just because they didn't think about what they were eating. They thought it was like some magical, my metabolism is going to be through the roof. I'm eating fat. I can't gain fat, that kind of thing. So as long as you know exactly what you're doing, you factor in your calories, you're doing it right, you're making sure that everything you're following to a T. I'm not saying that you have to walk around carrying a scale, but relatively speaking, you're in the right ballpark of what your calories and things like that should be, then you'll be fine on a ketogenic diet or intermittent fasting and high carbs or vice versa. It's like the same thing with being vegetarian. I feel like some of these people are it's like a group.
Yeah.
They're like a cult sometimes.
It definitely becomes
it's like I eat carbs. No, I don't eat carbs. I don't. I'm a vegan. And everybody's like whoosh.
It's like a sports team, like, oh yeah, team vegan.
Yeah.
Carbs, bro.
And then everybody says they have the better formula for it, and it's not necessarily the case. Some things work for some people. Oh, like the what diet was that? The all meat diet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm surprised these people aren't backed up for weeks. That hurts my stomach just thinking about it. How much meat you'd have to eat?
Oh my god.
To and make it there's so much steak and beef and pork and that's just it's too much for me. I mean, shoot. I mean, it's nice every now and again, to get your carnivore on, but at the same time too, sometimes I just don't feel like eating that.
Yeah.
So usually I'm a little bit more flexible with what I like to do, but again, if you're just starting out, I don't recommend. Again, I say calories equated for. That's for the people that can really control themselves. I mean, if you shouldn't or you're going to abuse that statement, then you probably should just stick to staying on a clean eating, and I quote because there's no true definition of clean eating, then you should stay on that path. The whole grains and things like that. Just to make sure that you're not going to go off on like a tangent because like, oh, I can eat one Pop-Tart, let me have 6. And one way I really would like to explain this to people is that it's like an allowance, like having an allowance for, or a budget really for certain things, right? So, okay, you want to buy a house, right? You have $500,000, right? So you'd be like, ooh, what? Love $500,000 right now.
Yeah.
But you have $500,000 you can spend, right? Now, you could go under that, no problem. You could outfit it, do all this stuff to it, but you only have $500,000, right? Mm-hmm. So why would you go and try to buy a $700,000 house if you only got $500,000? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Or, okay, if you have, and this does work this way because some people have high calorie, low calorie days. I mean, it gets a little wonky when you start doing that because, like, I got a leg day, or I'm going to go drink this weekend, this kind of thing. So I'm going to lower my calories here and that kind of thing. Because, again, it all ends up being how many calories you had at the end of the week or whatever the case is, being that net loss or net gain, depending on what your goal is, or keeping it the same. You'll taper calories down or up or something like that. So again, going back to that budget, if you want to go lower than that, right? So say you want a low cal day, right? But your goal is to maintain, okay, you can throw things in there and equate to that 500,000. Mm-hmm. But if you go over that, well, then you're going to be gaining some weight. You know what I'm saying? Or you're gaining that expense. Whatever it's like, some people like it in better terms, real word terms, or something like that, or like buying a car or something like that. So, why would you get that sports car if your monthly payment's only supposed to be $200 a month or something like that? Because then you're overreach. You're really just reaching out there and you're just screwing yourself because you can't pay for it. So, that's the way I like to treat it too. And God damn it, I lost my damn train of thought. Oh yeah. And here's another thing too. Exercise, right? So a lot of people think they're working harder than what they really are.
100%.
So when you factor in your total calories for the day, or things like that, activity level and things like that, if you are on the couch 90% of your day, right? Or not on the couch, but if you're really sitting down, you work out for 30 minutes, right? You're like, oh, that 30-minute workout was so hard. Okay, great. But that does not mean you should be eating an excess. Like, to be honest with you, like the majority of people aren't working out that hard. Mm-hmm. You're usually going in there, people are kind of like fiddling around. Max, 45 minutes to an hour, the average person would probably work out. Mm-hmm. Most people is like moderate, low intensity exercise. Mm-hmm. So why people think they should have an extra 500-600 calories a day is beyond me. Yeah. So you also have to think about that. Like if you're on your feet all day, if you're always active, meaning you got an active job, you're a waitress, you're a construction worker,
that's a big one.
Mowing lawns, not sitting on the lawn, whipping it around on the mobile ones or whatever. But if you're just moving around a lot, obviously you're going to require more energy because you're just thinking about, you have to factor in your basal metabolic rate. You have to factor in your daily expenditure from your job. Sometimes I can't sit throughout the day. Like I'm shoom all over the place. And sometimes the only time I really get to sit is when I'm home, B, when I'm in my car. So, obviously if you have a desk job, you're going to require less than somebody that's that's out there, shoveling snow or something like that, or doing manual labor throughout the day. You're going to require less automatically. So you can't be the same as that person. And another thing that kind of like ties into that is, when you're working out, you really have to factor in, how much cardio and stuff like that you're doing. So what kind of exercise you do also really does factor into how many calories that you take in for the day. Is it plain cardio? Is it cardio and weights? Is it heavy weights? Is it, because again, if you're a power lifter, obviously, strength base, things like that, you're going to require a different amount of energy source, or not energy source, but amount of calories than like a runner will. They run for 2-3 hours, or throughout the day, the marathoner, and how many calories they have to put in their bodies because they're running all the time. It's a lot of calories. A powerlifter isn't going to burn as many calories in, say, like they do an hour lifting session. They're going to burn as much as a runner that runs for 2-3 hours a day. So calories are going to be different. And usually when you have like a powerlifter and stuff like that, depending on, who they are and what they do, majority of them are relatively large people, usually. Obviously, some of them are smaller, but obviously if they sit on their butt all day, besides, that's all that they do for that day, that hour lifting session. Obviously, most of those guys are training hour, 2 hours usually, the elite guys and stuff, usually 2. If you're counting in stretching and all that other stuff. But, the runners and athletes that are swimmers, especially, like I deal with a lot of swimmers. Those guys burn calories like it's no tomorrow. Michael Phelps diet. I'm sure everybody heard about that. Boxes of pizza and pastas and all that stuff. So, obviously, it's all different. On pizza. Yeah. I wish. Dude, I wish. Like, yeah, I eat like 3 pizzas a day, and I just smoked you in a race. Like, it's like, damn. Like, how do you feel? But, yeah, so, real important message is this, right? And this is why I get on people about adherence, right? A lot of these diets fail, right? Like, really think about it, right? So take a moment, really think about what your diet is like right now, right? Are you on a diet? Number one. So you answer that question. You're already what? You're doing what exactly? Are you tracking what you're doing right now? Do you know what you're doing right now? What is your exact goal? You could be working out and just eating, but you don't really know what you're really putting in your body, whatever. So the reason these diets fail, right, is because there's no proper goal setting. There isn't really a aiming point. You're kind of throwing bullets at a board blindfolded for the most part. So there's really no aim. Now the percentage rate of the diets failing is like within 90-something% of diets will fail. The reason being, and usually they end up all for worse. So think about the Biggest Losers, right? So exercise and, basically underfeeding these guys like to death, right? So yeah, all right. Sally dropped 60 pounds since she was on the show. Most of those people gained that back and some. The reason being is because it wasn't the lifestyle that they could adhere to.
Right.
So a lot of those people relapse. They end up being bigger than what they used to be because, you just torched yourself and basically put yourself in the body, your body in a state of wanting to think it was starving or in some kind of famine. So it holds on to those calories. And then next thing you know, you're bigger than what you started at. Yeah. So, slows metabolism so that, your body's going to want to fight you keeping going down. So, it's really that goal setting. Do you take a diet break? Do you just go on maintenance for a while to reassess and bring your metabolism back up so then you can go back down? Do you want to stay at this weight? Do you look good here? Do you want to stay there? Those things. And I think even to me, right? Like I've had certain points yo-yo. So you yo-yo throughout the year. So you'd be like,
Up and down.
all right, I'm up here, then you go back down. Then you go up here. Like, you know those people too. You see them all the time. They're like, they'll come
Back
in, you're
and forth.
like, oh, damn, girl, you look good, right? Like, I don't know, store name. It's Sally, you look amazing right now. Then you see him like
Sally.
wintertime, dump, bump. That's why I said the abomination that is winter, because it sucks. Because why? You're inside. Nobody wants to go outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no more sprinting. There's no more running, really, unless you have an indoor facility. Bless you if you do. Nobody wants to run on a stinking treadmill. I hate that. So now I got to get creative in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the season, man. It goes from October, right? So we're about to hit. You're like, all right, man, eating all that Halloween candy, right? So that'll probably last, like a week.
Mm-hmm.
That takes you to November. Then in the middle of November, you're like, whatever. Thanksgiving's coming up soon. You're stressing about whatever at work. It's starting to get cold. You don't want to go outside anymore. Things like that. That factors in, because now you don't go outside. Now you're not doing things outside as much, because during the summer you were outside with friends doing this, that, and the third.
Yep.
Right? Swimming in the pool, running around, going hiking on, you ain't hiking in the winter usually. So, I mean, obviously, unless you live like in California or something like that, where the weather's just all the same, or like Texas and whatever else.
Florida.
So, Florida, where it's actually warm. But, when there's climate change and, it starts getting cold, people start to exercise less. Okay, now you got to go into a gym. Okay, what people, are adhering to their gym schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, if that falters too, now your calories expended are less, and then you require less. But you're not going to change that because you ain't really thinking about it that much. So now, then, here goes your weight creeping up. Right?
And the holiday parties start happening.
Yep.
Boom.
Holiday party starts happening. Your moms and your moms making that wonderful pie she makes all year. So you had to clear one to yourself, or have like 8 slices, right? But you're like, oh, it's only one day a year. Well, guess what? That 5 pounds that you gain ain't water weight, and it doesn't stick around for that long, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 pounds of water weight does not stick around for months. Or 10 pounds, or whatever the case is. You gorged yourself for that day. Well, it's still going to get digested. Sorry. So that sits in you. So you got that extra surplus calories. So now you're going deeper into winter. It's even colder. It's getting dark.
Oof.
Right? You ain't in the gym. You're hitting that Christmas, New Year's, around friends, family. You want to go get you some hot chocolate all the time. All that. That's where the yo-yo starts. And then, I'm kind of big now. It's February.
Tub of ice cream on Valentine's Day.
Yep, tub of ice cream on Valentine's Day. And then after that, it's usually smooth sailing into the summer. But then that's usually when, people get aggressive. Then it hits summer. Then everybody stops during the summer because it's summer and you want to hang out with friends and you're planning trips and stuff like that. So if that sounds like you, stop what you're doing right now, okay? Really think about what you want to do as far as what your plan is for like the winter. And I'm personally have my own methods of eating around the winter, and when it gets colder and things like that, how I adjust to those things happening around me. Whether I take my workouts inside, what kind of workouts I do inside. Maybe I start doing some boxing. Maybe I start doing some inside rowers, biking, and things like that. I still like to be outside. I guess I'm a weirdo. I still like to be outside because I just like cold I don't like cold weather, but I do like being outside. I enjoy being outside. So, I'll still take my workouts outside, but there was a point in time where I was like, it's way too cold to, do whatever. You're snowed in. You got to take your workout inside. There's plenty of things you can do. There's really no excuse, to be honest with you. That's it on that. Sorry, I went on like a tangent, but a lot of people suffer through this. Whether it's my friends and family and things like that. It's it's very common for people to fly off the wheel around this time of year and
Definitely.
be a yo-yo dieter and really not hit the nail on the head of what they want to do because they don't really have a structure or a plan to keep losing the weight, keep it off, and then, where they go from there and their proper goal setting and things like that. And knowing when they hit a plateau doesn't mean like you're done losing weight or done losing the body fat. It's just, what do you do from there? Do you take a break up from dieting? Because obviously everybody hits a wall.
Everyone does hit a wall. You got to change it up.
Yeah.
The main message, guys, is making sure you have something you can adhere to all year long. So,
yes.
Summer, winter,
all year,
fall,
all life, all the time.
You got to find something that you can adhere to, and it's about trial and error. Stick to the basics. Try to eat a good amount of protein. Try to make sure everything is nutrient based. So try to have things that are rich in things like fiber and micronutrients, so like good A, B, C's, irons and iron and other minerals. If I can talk today, but it's kind of just like when you're like kind of learning how to dress yourself when you're little. Like you got to figure out your outfit and how do you wear your clothes. The same way it is with your diet. So you got to kind of play around. Okay, I don't like this. Around this time, I eat like this. Holidays are coming. Okay, I'm going to do more of this so I can eat more of this. And you kind of just keep playing with it. It's a constant battle. It's a practice. So it's not just 30 days and you get abs or, 6
Never.
weeks and rip to shit. Like,
Never.
It's a constant struggle because today's the youngest you ever are going to be. So your body's going to be growing with you and it's going to react differently as you age. So you got to get used to being able to change and adapt to your body scenarios that's going to come up. So it is important. The one thing you guys got to get out of this damn thing is find something that works for you that you will adhere to. So I don't want to see another keto post or vegan or whatever the hell it is that you're doing unless it actually fits who you are. Just because Randy at the gym says I eat spinach breakfast for 3 weeks and I'm skinny, it doesn't mean you should do it too.
Exactly. I hate that.
Oh my God.
I drank a whole gallon of water today, and that's all I'm going to have.
Oh yeah, lemon water, just lemon water. Just drink lemon
Detox
water.
everything because I drank
the detox.
the drinks. After a night of drinking, it's gonna erase everything. I drank a whole bottle of Vladimir, and now I'm gonna drink a whole gallon of lemon water, and that's gonna take away everything. I'm gonna be back to normal. Yeah, right.
So Keiran, how do the good people of America or the world contact you and find out?
Oh man, you could just slide in my DM. No, I'm just playing. Do not slide in my DMs. I will block you. No, I'm just playing. Actually, I probably will. But so you can follow me on Instagram, Bibbs_era. I actually have a second page coming soon. The name of that will not be disclosed until I actually put that page up. That will have a whole bunch of, my own lifestyle. How I live not how I live my life, but, different things I do, incorporate throughout my, regular day and how I eat and certain things I do to show that, you can do anything and still be able to be in shape and things like that. And you don't have to be a hermit to be in shape. And I go on Twitter. I usually just say shit. I don't know. Oops, I said shit. No, I said it again. Facebook, you can basically ask me anything. I'm pretty open to whatever, and I'm anti BS. Okay, so I won't sugarcoat anything. If you're messing something up or you want an honest opinion, I'm going to give it to you. And if I don't know something, I'm going to give you the scientific answer and tell you that I don't know. If there's certain things that I do not know. I won't tell you if I don't know because I can't give you that answer because I don't freaking know. So, so you can contact me wherever. Your preferences, I most likely will, have that Instagram page up within the next month or two. Fingers crossed. And if you feel like DMing me, whether or not you have a question about nutrition, lifestyle, how to shoot. I've told plenty of people how to drink on the freaking weekends and still lose weight. And they were getting drunk. Messes up your protein synthesis, just so you know. But these people still lost weight drinking and having fun. So, whatever questions you have, I've pretty much done it all. So I'm like a Swiss Army knife. So whatever questions you have, I'm willing to answer. If I have the answers.
All right. And I'll put his Instagram in the show notes, guys. So
plug it up.
No matter what happens, I'll plug everything up in the show notes. Check them out. And question of the day, Bibbs, what you got? What do you want to ask the listeners?
Oh man, I think I'm gonna spin off that weekend. So why do you guys struggle during the weekends? The weekend warriors, the people that like to drink, go out and party. What do you do to combat that? Do you try to combat that? Do you have any methods? Are you looking for methods to try to still have fun and feel like you're still getting your health and fitness on, but you still want to go out, drink, have fun? So yeah, that's my question to you guys. I guess.
All right.
Hit him with them.
You heard it, guys. What do you guys do oh my God, why do you guys do what you do in the weekends? Are you trying to change things up, or do you have a way to fix it? Shit.
Calories don't go away on the weekends, people.
Calories don't go away on the weekends.
They don't go away.
But all right, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Fitness Fundamentals Podcast. Thanks for listening, and take care.
Love, peace, hair grease.